In our World War II unit, we're going to look at visuals again. I'm going to break these up, I think, into 3 or 4 visual segments. So there may be some more of these short videos, but I think that'll help keep them shorter. And then when you need to review, you won't have quite as much in any chunk. And so for this one, we're just going to do 3 visuals. We're going to look at the average soldier in World War II, and then we're going to look at our home front visual for World War II. This is a German soldier in World War II. He's going to be our example of just a regular military member. One of the things that can be a mistake people make about World War II is assuming that all of the German military and even all of the population of Germany were Nazis. It's not true. The Nazis were a political party. There were definitely people who had Nazi sympathies, but there would have been a lot of Germans, and there would have even been people in the German military who did not agree with Nazi ideals. Now, there were definitely people that were really sold out for those ideals, and we see those in more of special units like the SS that would have been directly serving Hitler. Your average German soldier, though, and there were 13 or 14 million of them that are going to serve during World War II, was in his mid-20s. He had 3, maybe even 4 months of basic training as Germany built up to get ready for World War II. Remember, they had a military buildup going long before the war ever actually started. This guy has got better equipment than most of his counterparts in other countries. His guns are better. If he serves in an armored division, the tanks that he'll use are bigger and better. If he is a pilot, his planes will be faster and more maneuverable than most other planes in World War II. On a battlefield, really the most distinctive thing about him is probably that helmet shape that you see in the picture that's there. Germany had a lot of its military made up of professional soldiers. And so this guy has trained, and his job is to be serving in the military. He will be probably hungry by the middle of the war as supplies start to run short. He will probably be a little disenfranchised by what he sees as faulty battle plans coming from higher ups, especially Adolf Hitler, though he definitely wouldn't have said that probably to anybody besides his best friends as they were sitting around a campfire at night or something like that. But as they come out, this is, like I said, just kind of the average German soldier in World War II. They called them, or the nickname they got was stormtroopers. In another one of these videos, we're going to talk about the blitzkrieg tactic that got used during World War II. But that will be where that comes from. And I know what you're thinking. Mr. Bagwell, I know you like Star Wars. And yeah, that's supposed to be where George Lucas got the name that he would use for the Empire's troops in the Star Wars franchise. An American soldier, just by way of comparison, was usually referred to as a G.I. Joe. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? At least me, I used to play with G.I. Joes when I was a kid. That was a toy and a cartoon series. GI stood for government issue. And government issue, that GI was stamped all over pretty much everything this guy's going to carry. His backpack, his equipment, even his blankets would have GI on there. And so that becomes kind of a nickname that they would get, and it sticks. Also, these guys are referred to famously by Stephen Ambrose as citizen soldiers. We didn't have a very large professional army at the beginning of World War II. And so we relied on volunteers and then eventually men who were drafted to fill in the 16 million spots that are going to be required for fighting a two-front war during the early 1940s. So because of this, this guy is not going to have the background that the German soldier did. He's probably going to get 6 to 8 weeks of basic training before he leaves the United States for places like Africa or places in the Pacific. His guns, his tanks, and his planes aren't as sophisticated as those of some of the enemies he's going to be facing, but there's more of everything. There are enough guns in the American military, unlike perhaps the Soviet military. There are plenty of bullets available. Those tanks may not be as good as German tanks, but we can produce 4 or 5 tanks to every one the Germans can produce, which helps to eliminate any kind of advantage that they've got in that particular case. The average age of an American soldier was about 26 years old during World War II. Most soldiers were married and had at least one child who was going to be at home. He makes $50 a month, most of which he will send home because there's not a whole lot to spend money on overseas as you're fighting in World War II. He's going to be split into 2 separate theaters. Some will be going to Europe to fight against the Italians and the Germans. Some will be going to Japan to fight against the Japanese. There will be British troops who are fighting in both areas as well. And so this guy may have some interaction with some allies from other countries. But that's kind of the basic American soldier from World War II. The last one we've got in this first section is Rosie the Riveter. She's going to show back up again in our home front. Little video that we're going to do. But I want to show you here, this is a propaganda poster. There have been a couple of different ladies in history who have claimed to be the model for Rosie the Riveter, but this is an example of white propaganda, right? It's supposed to stir up feelings of patriotism. With 16 million guys heading overseas to fight in World War II, you need people to step into the jobs that they're leaving in things like factories back home in the United States. And the group that's going to be expected to do that are women. Now, this is a point in time, women had worked a little bit in factories in World War I, but now this is going to be a years-long process. You've got to do a good job of convincing women, first of all, so you can see here by Rosie inviting everybody to the gun show, that they're strong enough to accomplish the task, but also, as you can tell by the beauty of Rosie the Riveter, that they're not going to lose those feminine qualities, and that would have been a worry for some of the women entering the workforce. But basically the idea is that everybody is going to have to step up and to do their part. And so World War II, more than World War I, really becomes kind of a whole country effort in trying to beat back the Axis powers.